What's up? Welcome to Chat It Up, another edition. It's a virtual edition here on the show, and we are super thrilled to have that man to my top left, right? I don't even know how that works. Garrett Tolley is back in the building. What's up, Papa?
Back, baby. Back. First show as a Papa. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Love
Feels
it.
good
Love
to be
to
back,
have you
boys.
here.
Here's my living room. I don't
Yeah.
think y'all have seen this in a while, but it's nice. I don't know. We got a balloon over here.
Nice.
We got flowers. I don't know, but
Hey, it's all good. Greg Leonard, Garrett Tolley, Joseph Guthrie hanging out with you here for the next hour or so. We're going to get into a lot of college football. Obviously, we were at the third Saturday in October out in Knoxville this weekend. We are going to talk about the experience, Joseph and I. Garrett's got a little surprise for us. We're going to get into, obviously, UGA upsetting Texas. Joseph is going to dive all about that. And this is my first experience watching a football game with Joseph. I'm going to recant that for you as well. It was quite the experience. And we'll talk about the other core four games and some other things that stood out to us as the show goes on. We'll kind of dive a little bit into the NFL as well. But, boys, we have to start with GT because if you got them, you got to smoke them, right?
got to smoke them, baby. Listen, third Saturday in October would not be done properly if Chat It Up didn't have its own. Oh, yeah. So you can see that this lighter is going to be not the best, but nonetheless, we got this light. So we're gonna smoke this a little bit. But man, if I was at home rocking a baby to sleep, like with this game on, and I'll tell you what, I mean, who the heck was Tennessee up until like the third quarter? I mean, now that was not the same team at all, and then all of a sudden they come right back in and they make us have a game to remember. So I'm going to light this happily. I've been saving this for you boys once I can get this going.
Beautiful. Well, it felt like it took a minute for there he goes. There he goes. Took a minute for
Nice.
Dylan Sampson to get rolling, but once he finally did, I mean, 26 carries, 139 yards, 2 touchdowns. Dylan kind of ended up leaning on Alabama and was able to get some action, able to open up those shots. And Nico finally was like, "Hey, boys, I see it. I see the field. Here we go. Touchdown."
I know.
So I think that's what a lot of people were looking for over the past few games from the Vols. And you finally got it against I don't know if I want to say weaker Alabama secondary, but an inexperienced Alabama secondary. So, but that's football. You got to take advantage of those shots when you get them. So it's something to build on if you're the Vols and you're Nico going from here. You are now 2-0 in the Josh Heupel era in Neyland against Bama. So that's
you are. You knocked out Nick Saban in Neyland, and now you get your first swing at Kalen DeBoer, and you knock him out as well. And you guys are talking about the deep shots with Nico, and for both quarterbacks, fellas, it was like those shots were there all game long for both quarterbacks. It was like, all right, which one of these guys is going to make bigger plays or make those throws? And it took Nico, as you mentioned, like all the way into like the third quarter to finally hit one of those. And he hit Thornton on that 55-yarder. Sampson punched it in from the 2-yard line there, and it kind of got Tennessee off and rolling. And it was a lot of missed opportunities on both sides. And you mentioned it, Joseph, the secondary not great for Alabama, and Tennessee, it felt like should have won this game by more if Nico was able to kind of complete some of those throws. I feel like this game would have been a little bit more lopsided than it actually was, and it wasn't very lopsided, but both quarterbacks were a little bit off. There were many times where Ryan Williams on the other side was wide open, and he just couldn't connect with him, and Tennessee's defensive line was getting pressure and making him uncomfortable. And that's exactly what Tennessee and Tim Banks' defense are predicated on nowadays. And I thought they did a fantastic job of not allowing Jalen Milroe to wreck the game.
Absolutely. I mean, well, you gotta give it the state of Tennessee. You got Vandy, now you got Tennessee Vols. I'm probably going to be number one is right above their head in this state of Alabama. And I mean, you can't be more proud of the team that they put together, but do you actually take away from this game that Tennessee's a top 7 team? Because they struggled so long. I mean, I don't think if they were home, this game would have gone the way we thought it went. I don't think that Tennessee would have won this game if this was played in Tuscaloosa.
Go ahead, Joseph.
Dude, I just like. I mean, part of me agrees with you, but I mean, I don't know what happened to Milroe, and I'm sure all Alabama fans feel the same way. I don't know what happened to Alabama after the first half against Georgia, because when they came out in that game, it was like you are God's gift to offense. You are the scheme. You are how this is supposed to run. And then since then, it's just been like, we talked about we've said APBs a few times on players throughout the season. So APB on Alabama's offense, and Jalen Milroe all of a sudden's not his inability to see the field and not making plays with his legs like he did. I mean, in his past 4 games, in the game against Georgia, he had 27 of 33, 374 yards, 81% completion percentage. Since then, he has steadily declined. 75% against Vandy, 69% against South Carolina, 55% against Tennessee completion percentage. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Got sacked 3 times, man. Quarterback rating under 70, 65.3 QBR. This is like, I think, was it College Football Nerds, I believe. I was reading this stat off to you and Miggy on the ride back.
Mm-hmm.
College Football Nerds put out a tweet that Alabama's only had 2 quarterbacks with a lower QBR than 70 or something like that, and this was one of them in the past 15 years. I mean, it's just Tennessee got after him. Milroe got rattled. He never recovered. And I'm curious what happened. I want to know what changed between September 28th and October 19th.
For Jalen Milroe specifically?
For the Bama offense, because it feels like not even necessarily Milroe, because it seems like his legs are a non-factor anymore. And if Ryan Williams isn't getting the ball, nobody's getting the ball. You're not handing off to Jam Miller. Justice Haynes is kind of underperforming.
Listen, I'll tell you what happened. You don't lose to Vanderbilt for the first time in 40-something years and then come back and thinking you're tough shit anymore. You're not. I mean, at the same, you gotta blow the ego there when it comes to when you lose to a game and how you bounce. Like Coach Greg knows all about how you respond in the face of adversity. It shows who you are as a program, as a character. We're just seeing what the brand new post Nick Saban era looks like. It's not as sturdy. You're not going to bounce back from a Vandy because you don't got that man in the locker room anymore. You got DeBoer. He's a great coach, but those aren't his players. Those are not his players. So he's not going to rile up those guys the way Saban did. Heck, he even gave a speech to the college game day kids, and they were about to run through a brick wall out there on my TV. So I'm telling you, that's what's happening. It's not anything against them. It's just the culture of that entire program is now changed.
I was going to say, you could see it, and I think I sent you all the video of like a couple of wide receivers when Alabama was going for it on like 4th and short. They thought they were going to get it, and the 2 wide receivers stepped back and gave fadeaway jump shots, thinking that they were going to get the first down. Like that's the difference between years past in Alabama and where Alabama is right now. And if Kalen DeBoer is worth his salt as a head coach, he will get that corrected, and that won't happen on the field any longer. As you mentioned, GT, like with our kids for the Rangers, like if we saw some shit like that happening and going down with them, like we would call it out right away and be like, that's not happening anymore. I remember one time before you got there, the year before you got there, I had a kid, I think he hit a home run or he was coming in on a pass ball or something from third, and he like Euro stepped his way into the plate to score. And I went and talked to him afterwards. The other coaches on the other side was like, that was real, cool, like whatever, like showboat and whatever. I said to them on third base, I was like, don't worry, coach. I'm talking to him after this inning. I was already going to talk to him. So if Kalen DeBoer is worth anything, he'll have conversation with those wide receivers. And as you mentioned, like these aren't his kids, and maybe he needs to bring in his guys. But at the same time, like you're coaching kids, you're the head coach, you're the man in charge. And I get it. It's a little bit different because it's a football program with 100 some odd people involved versus a baseball team where there's, a lot less, but still it's not great there in Alabama. And you can just tell after that Georgia win, it's just let down, lose to Vanderbilt, let down, barely beating South Carolina, let down, losing to Tennessee. And this is the first time since 2007 that Alabama has 2 losses before November. So
Yep.
the culture is definitely changing at Alabama.
Mhm.
And this is the time. If you're another SEC school, you got to get Alabama now. Go get them now.
Yep. Yeah, because Kalen DeBoer's, they'll get better. They'll get better.
Mhm.
Kalen will get it turned around. I don't know if, whether that's bringing in his guys, or I think he's low key kind of missing Ryan Grubb from last year. I know Ryan went up to Seattle, and he's done some things with Kenneth Walker and Geno Smith and the boys, but like I think Kalen's low key missing Ryan Grubb. I have faith that he'll get it turned around. But if you're going to get Alabama, it's going to be this year. And boys, they got a trip to LSU coming up in the next couple of weeks. Whew. And LSU is looking.
They look really good.
Turn their season around.
They look really good.
I know it's just, and I don't mean this to preface, we'll get into it a little bit more. I know it's just Arkansas. Sorry, guys. But to win like you did last week and to come and to just bury that team and be like, yeah, no, this ain't happening is huge. It's huge for LSU and who they are as a team. So, but that aside, this is a stepping stone moment for Tennessee for the rest of their season. You've got to take this and build momentum off of it.
You know what's the biggest surprise of this whole thing? We talk about these teams like Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama. These are the hot ticket teams in our market.
Yeah.
Dude, shout out to College Station sitting on top of the SEC right now. I mean, who would have saw that?
No, nobody.
That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, this entire transfer portal, new regime, 12-team playoff, call it what you want. I mean, it's just flipped everything on its head in a lot of ways. And I think that what we're seeing is a new norm, and that Matt Rule said it against the Nebraska head coach. He said to the media that it's not going to be surprising to see big upsets anymore. The transfer portal has changed everything. You're going to see a lot more, I would say, diversity in your wins and losses than you probably saw in the past. So I think we're just getting a little bit of a shock from it. This is Alabama and the new norm post Nick Saban, and LSU, they look really good. But how long does that stay? I don't know. I mean, is it the same thing? I think that any one of these SEC teams, I don't think it's set in stone at all. What we see in after week 9, it will look so different in just week 11. I promise.
Well, that's kind of what is a little nerve-wracking as a Tennessee fan, only because, okay, now you win this game against Alabama, and we were talking about it in the last show of, hey, is this sort of an elimination game between Tennessee and Alabama? It doesn't seem like a 3-loss SEC team is going to get in. You could probably only afford 2 losses. Tennessee's already got that one against Arkansas, which was an unexpected one. The way Georgia played against Texas, that's going to be a really good game and a really tough win to try to get there for Tennessee. So let's say they lose at UGA. You can't have any slip-ups anywhere else. And Miggy keeps talking about it of the game that scares him the most is that final game at the end of the year in Nashville against Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt's already proven to be a very tough out. Clark Lee's going to have those boys ramped up and ready to go in Nashville. And there's like a renewed sense of camaraderie and excitement around that Vandy football team, which hasn't been there in a very long time. So if you're Tennessee, yeah, this was a great win against Alabama. And you were just talking about it, GT. You have to be on your P's and Q's every single week because there is no margin for error. You have one more loss that you can afford. It's probably going to come against Georgia.
Mm-hmm. It definitely will come against Georgia.
Joseph didn't even crack a smile there.
Hang on now. And it's a perfect time for Tennessee to roll into their bye week because you're coming off this big emotional win against Bama, and then Kentucky's next on deck. And it's like, I'm not saying Kentucky's anything you normally should be worried about, but they're a stingy team this year, man. That defense is there to play. Tennessee's a good bye at a good time. So,
yeah.
All right, so let's talk quickly about our biggest takeaways from this game. I want y'all to throw out 1 or 2 each. Joseph, I'm going to start with you. Give me 1 or 2 takeaways that you had from the Tennessee or Alabama side that really stood out to you in this game.
If Dylan Sampson's not moving, Tennessee's not moving. And I know that's kind of obvious. We've kind of seen that. And that is, you talked about it a few shows earlier in the season that people talk about Josh Heupel being high flying, and they talk about him being like pass it and, throw the ball around, but he wants to run the ball. And he wants to put emphasis on running the ball, and he has that with Dylan Sampson. But if Dylan Sampson gets stuffed, it's going to be tough for Tennessee. So Dylan Sampson is the engine of this offense, and then for Bama, oh man, run the ball, dog. Like Jam Miller and Justice Haynes, 20 carries combined for 64 yards. Run the ball, man. I just don't. It was one of my keys going into the game. Keep Josh Heupel's offense off the field. Keep them off the field. Hold on to the ball. You've got great running backs. Use them. I mean, I just don't. I don't know. And I'm not a coach. I'm not in practice. I don't know. I don't get to see what Kalen DeBoer and the boys see. But I don't understand the what feels like a lack of commitment to running the ball from Alabama.
They did win the time of possession battle in this game. 33-15, 26-45.
Okay.
GT, what did you see from this game? Yeah, what was one or two of your big takeaways?
Biggest takeaway, which just shocks me, the Josh Heupel defense gets going a lot faster than the Josh Heupel offense, which is amazing to me. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And so shout out to the defense, dude. That kept him in the game. Absolutely kept him in the game. That's the biggest takeaway. Alabama, their culture just isn't an absolute – it's an identity crisis. You can't lose to both teams in the state of Tennessee in your conference and not go back and look yourself in the mirror and think, am I wearing the right shoes? Is there something wrong with me? I should dump my girlfriend. You got to change something. So that was my big takeaway, is that there's a culture issue in Alabama. Shout out to the defense of Tennessee that kept you in the game.
All right, so I just want to pop in, and we've got TriStar jumping in. Says player of the game. His biggest takeaway was local legend Boo Carter, and we talked about it during the game, Joseph, while we were there. And Boo was kind of flying around, and he was making some big hits, and he actually got a big penalty called on an Alabama player by John Adam, got him to react, threw a punch or a slap to the helmet or whatever it was, a shove, and that was a big call on Tennessee's favor. Yeah.
And I think that oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I didn't know if you were going to answer, so I was just about to say something. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that plays more into GT's point about the culture shift, man, is I feel like, I feel like with Bama and with Saban, he doesn't swing. He doesn't do that because he knows it's not acceptable. And just the constant reinforcement of don't talk to them. Don't talk to them. Let your play talk. Let the scoreboard talk. Don't say not to reference. You know what? I'm gonna reference the Kirby Smart speech. Don't say shit to them. Just play. It's a culture shift, man. GT hit the nail on the head with that. So
yeah, absolutely. All right, my big takeaway from this one, I kind of said it earlier. My first one would be just the inaccuracy of both quarterbacks, the inability to hit big plays. And we were kind of talking about it while we were at the watch party. It was just like, Nico's just got to hit one or two. Like, if he can hit there. And I loved that Josh Heupel didn't shy away. And, we were also talking about it while we were watching. It was just like the big question within this offense was, hey, is it a Heupel problem? Is it a Nico problem? Is it an offensive line problem? And I think we've come to see that, it is a Nico issue right here, maybe along with the offensive line as well, that, look, Josh can only scheme open the guys. Nico and the guys got to go out there and execute. And there were a couple drops on the wide receivers, so it wasn't all on Nico, but more on a Nico issue than a Josh Heupel issue. Like, the offense is good. The offense is there. The throws are there. He's able to scheme things open. Nico's got to do a better job of executing. The offensive line has to do a better job of blocking. All the way around, it just has to be a little bit better. And if it does get better, like this offense, you're going to see this offense kind of humming along like it was with Hendon Hooker in 2002, because 2022, they have enough offensive firepower there with Dylan Sampson. Chris Brazzell made that awesome catch in the end zone. Brew McCoy, Dante Thornton, the list goes on and on. I know Squirrel's been a little banged up and whatnot, but he can be a playmaker as well. They have plenty of options there to go around. And on the other side of things, on the defensive side, I just kind of want to touch on just how good this defense has been. And it was our boy Ryan Shumpert over at RockyTopInsider.com who had a great article here about how good the defense has been. I just want to read you guys a couple of these stats because I couldn't really believe how good the defense has actually been. Yards per play, they're allowing just over 4 yards per play. That's second in the nation. Rushing defense-wise, just 79 yards per game. That's second in the nation as well. Also second in the SEC. I don't know who's first. Joseph, do you know who's first? Would you have a guess? Is it Georgia?
In rushing yards? In rushing yards allowed?
Yes, rushing defense, yeah.
It ain't Georgia. No, it ain't Georgia.
Okay.
Not after that Kentucky game.
Well, I don't know who that is, but they're second in the SEC on rushing defense. Third down defense, they're allowing 24%. That's second nationally, first in the SEC. Scoring defense, just over 11.5 points per play. That's fourth nationally, third in the SEC. Tackles for loss, they've got 59 of those, third nationally, second in the SEC. Total defense, they've allowed just 260 yards, fourth nationally, second in the SEC. I mean, there's a ton of stats here. You can go and read them, but the defense is really what's carrying you and really allowing the inability for the offense to kind of get going and kind of having it sputtering a little bit. They've been the biggest aspect to this team that's kept them in games, like you said, GT, and they've helped really win them games when the offense hasn't clicked the way that it should. And I'm hoping in the second half of the year here it will start to click. And Nico, again, who's only 8 starts into his college career, will start to figure it out. He'll start to click like we saw early in the year.
Looking up rushing defense, the top rushing defense in the SEC is Ole Miss.
Okay.
Shout out, man.
Did not see that coming. So I would have expected it to be, honestly, I would have, well, it probably was before Saturday, but I would have expected it to be Texas just because.
Yeah.
They were giving up
like
6 points a game before Saturday or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So from an experience standpoint, Joseph, I want to get your thoughts on your experience as a non-Tennessee fan, going to the tailgate, being there, going to the watch party, being outside of Neyland, being around the fans. I don't know. I don't think we've talked about it. Had you ever done something like that before in Knoxville at Neyland Stadium? Talk to me a little bit about your experience there.
No, that's the first time I've ever been to. That's the first time I've ever been to Knoxville during a Tennessee game. Every other time I've been to Knoxville has been outside of football season. So I had high expectations, and they lived up to it, man. You can feel the energy, you can feel the passion, the love for the team. I've always wanted to go to a game at Neyland, so still got that on the bucket list. Especially the third Saturday in October. I've always wanted to go to that game. But the energy was good, man. It was really good, and it reminded me a lot of. And I guess not to throw this out, but just from speaking from personal experience, it reminded me a lot of like the Georgia fan base in like 2019, 2020, leading up to that first title, man. That like you can see the pieces start to come together. You can see you're building towards something greater, and the fan base knows it. The fan base can feel it, and they're all in, man. The passion's there. They are hungry for Tennessee to be a national title contender again. And that's what you need, man. That's what you got to have buy-in. You got to have buy-in from top to bottom to get there, to climb the mountaintop. And you can feel it around Knoxville, man. They're bought in. So,
isn't it fun? Did he get a smoky dog, G? You made sure you got a smoky dog.
We didn't go to the game.
Yeah, we didn't. We
outside
unfortunately we didn't.
in other areas of the game. They don't have that outside, like a smoky dog hot dog stand.
Nope,
possibly.
Dude,
I didn't see it.
Leaving money on the table with Knoxville, sheesh. Like that's the first thing I would do is for all the people who couldn't go to the game at the tailgate. You know how much money those New York hot dog stand guys make by Central Park? You're basically in the Central Park of Knoxville on a Saturday.
You're not wrong.
Dude, why would you not have a hot dog stand?
That's
there?
A great idea.
Missed opportunity, man.
This is why I don't have the money to be rich. I just have the ideas.
Well, hopefully it definitely won't be the last time we're there. So like we got chances. We got chances to go again.
Can you imagine seeing me like flying up? What is it? 75 with like a hot dog stand, like reeled in from my Jeep Compass. Just get a little flag raised, I don't know, some fun.
I think we need to partner with Tennessee, the University of Tennessee, and we need to kind of start the little game day hot dog stands around the different tailgate areas and around campus. I think that would be, dude, just sitting there at the watch party, like there was nowhere to eat. Like you couldn't get food. Like I got it like right before the game started as this Japanese place was closing down, this little pop-up. But like you put some hot dog stands out there, or like a grill or something like that while the game's going on. I think the atmosphere was cool there, but that could be needed. Somewhere to get a beverage and somewhere to get some food. Because I know you, Joseph, you didn't eat all afternoon basically from the tailgate on.
Yeah. I don't think I ate until
Taco Bell later in the night.
Yeah, and that was at what, midnight?
Yeah,
man.
That Taco Bell, it was infused with something. It brought me back to life. Like
that and the Crystal Burgers.
Oh yeah, and
that was more like the crave back.
That was more like a necessity. The Crystal Burgers were out of need, and the Taco Bell was out of want. Like those crystals were just. That is not something I recommend to people. Crystals is not something you should voluntarily put in your body unless you have been indulging in certain activities.
Stop lying to the people, Joseph. Crystals slaps so hard your mama can feel it.
Not
at
when
midnight.
The sun's up.
It's so good. It is so good.
Yes, at midnight, exactly. You have to have consumed at least 5 to 8 alcoholic beverages, and then crystals is good to go.
Yep. No other time in your life should you be putting crystals in your body. Like, it's just not worth it.
All right, how about this from TriStar saying you can't be from chat and not eat crystal.
Well, he's from Fort O, so there you go.
That's true. I
mean,
he still loves crystal. I'm not a big crystal fan.
Dude, it is not something. That's the first time I've eaten crystal in probably 2 years. Yeah. I mean, listen, there was a point where it was like, okay, it's you or the crystals, and somebody's not making it out of this situation. And the crystals were just on the chopping block, dog.
You sound like
man did what he had to do.
You sound like you're doing witchcraft. Like it's either you or the crystals. And if the crystals they ain't chiming and doing what, like, reel it in.
The crystals, I mean,
it's just
they
a burger.
were.
Enjoy the burger. It's fine and it's delicious.
Was it fine?
I don't care.
You weren't in the car the morning after the crystal experience.
No, I wasn't. No. But I will say I hadn't had crystals in my life until I moved to Tennessee. Because in Texas, it's just Whataburger galore. Like, that's where you go. Yeah, you're good. If it's midnight, you're going to Whataburger. Or Taco. But Taco Bell seems universal. I feel like everyone, if it's midnight or 2, like, you're going to Taco Bell.
Yeah. Taco Bell's definitely better. Taco Bell's my goat.
I was going to just ask, just randomly, what is your go-to late-night fast food joint?
Currently, it's Taco Bell. In college, it was Cookout. I ate an ungodly amount of Cookout in college, dude, because it was at the time it was $5. It's not anymore, but it was $5 for way too much food for $5, and I just couldn't help myself.
Dude, the cantina meals at Taco Bell right now are sending me into bankruptcy. So good. I like getting it like twice a week. It's so good, man. It's so good.
It's a little on the healthier side too. Like it's a great meal. Like that right now, like you were saying, Joseph, like that right now is my go-to like late night meal. But I think when I was like in college, high school, right after college, it would probably be McDonald's. And if you were drinking, you would just order off the dollar menu and you get a McBang Bang. That's a McChicken and a McDouble for $2 and you're good to go.
God,
there it is.
Yeah. What started the decline of America? We lost the dollar menu at McDonald's.
Us taking the U.S. dollar off the gold standard. That's where the decline of America started during the Nixon era. But that's a different podcast.
That's the real answer. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the fun answer.
TriStar is apparently a Waffle House fan. Are we Waffle House fans? Late night eats?
Okay. Listen, like Waffle House is a staple, dog. If you live in the South, I mean, you got to eat Waffle House.
Did you see that basically the waffle? It's like how serious was the hurricane in your area? Was based upon how the Waffle House index. Never knew that. Never knew until until Milton. Yeah.
If Waffle House closes, shit's serious. Like that's like you can throw out all the red flags, you can play all the sirens you want. You closing a Waffle House? Oh, okay, this is for real. All right, we got to get out of here. That is the 5-alarm fire. That is the siren.
100%.
Crazy, man. It's so wild, man. Yep. That's so crazy. In Texas, whenever it was in Houston, whatever hurricane or storm they had earlier this year, they were using Whataburger's location on their app to see who had power in the area. So based upon the locations of Whataburgers that were online was how that Houston, Texas was able to tell what areas had power and throughout the city during that. I think it was a hurricane. I don't know. It seems like there's so many now, but
yeah, for real. There are so many hurricanes that are happening at this moment. It's not exactly at this moment, but recently here, it's a little wild. All right, let's move on, fellas, and let's talk a little bit about let's talk about the dogs, baby. Go ahead, Joseph. Talk to me about your dogs in that big 30-15 upset. Hook 'em horns down, boys. Sorry, GT with Texas. See ya.
Before he jumps in there, you mentioned earlier you've never watched a game with Joseph. Let me just get that live reaction real quick.
Go ahead.
Before he dives into his analytical thing that I can't keep up with.
Okay, so the experience, I'm just going to give you the whole kit and caboodle here with the whole experience of that game. So right after the Tennessee game, and by the way, I forgot to mention this, the watch party was cool watching it at the big screen right outside the stadium and whatnot. I don't even know where we were at on campus, but the stadium was right behind us. And the only thing that was kind of annoying was that whenever something good happened, the fireworks would go off before the play would actually happen on the television screen. So we kind of already knew when something good or not good was happening. So that was a little annoying. I wish they would have made it maybe a little bit further away from Neyland where you couldn't see the fireworks at the stadium or whatever. But regardless, we were walking from Neyland Stadium basically to a bar called Cool Beans. And it's a college bar and whatnot. And long line. Jamarius used to run things out there, so he got us in. Shout out to Jamarius Julius, who was awesome, and he's a little sick right now, a little under the weather. So we're praying for him. But we go to Cool Beans, and Joseph. The biggest thing for him when coming on this trip was, hey, I'm down to go to Neyland. I'd love to go to the game, the watch party, the tailgate, the whole thing. But I need to be in front of a TV at about 7:30. The game got pushed back to 7:50 for the Texas-Georgia game. I said, Joseph, you come with us. We absolutely will make that happen. And so we go to Cool Beans. I'd been there one time before, and it was fine. But it's a typical college bar. And after Tennessee just beats Alabama, it was absolutely packed. People were inebriated left and right. And it's just that typical college bar where there's nowhere to sit. You're standing up. People are bumping into you all over the place. And there's TVs about, so it was fine. But we literally stood the entire time. So the floor, you step down somewhere and it takes you a second to get your foot up off the ground because it's a little sticky, the typical college bar. But watching a game with Joseph, he turns into kind of a different person. This is a man who rarely swears. He rarely gets upset, raises his voice. He's a very mild-mannered fellow. And during a Georgia game, he's like, you mother effers, you this and that. And he's yelling at the TV. And I could tell if he were at home, it would have been a lot worse. He was in public, and a couple of times I was standing next to him the whole time while I was watching the game. He had to contain himself. He's like, "Look, I'm in public. I'm not at home. I got to control myself," and he did. But there were a couple of times he let it slip. He let it fly, and it was good to see the real UGA Joseph kind of come out, the dog in him.
Listen, I will be the first person to tell you it is totally irrational, and it is completely ridiculous that a grown man gets that into a football game, but I just can't help it, man. I don't know. It's like, I just can't help it. I love it. I love them. I mean, I'm not one of those people like, yeah, I'm really into the game. And if we lose, it's not going to ruin my weekend. Like, I'm not going to shut down and be like, I refuse to like when we lost the Bama game, came on here. Like, I'm not like that, but in the game while it's happening, I can't help myself. So,
all right, what's your take? How did you feel watching the thing? What's your take?
okay, let's start with the bad first. Georgia's offense is a mixed bag. Sometimes I feel like they come out and Carson's slinging it and he looks confident. And it's like, oh, here we go, baby. Here's that first round quarterback talent we talked about. And then other times it walks out and it's like, man, this is what people said Stetson was like. He doesn't look confident. He's throwing to the wrong team. It's balls are high. They're in the wrong spot. Like that offense is kind of infuriating to watch a little bit. Just because I know they could be really good. Like I've seen these guys play at a level that is championship-esque, and it's just like something's just not clicking. Something's just off, and I don't know if it's Carson and the receivers, or if it's the line, or if it's just Carson, or like I don't know. I don't know what's causing that, but something is throwing them off a little bit. That being said, that is, as an opposing fan base's fan, that is kind of terrifying, or could be potentially. That Georgia came out and looked like they did on offense. Carson Beck's 23 for 41, 175 yards, 4.3s on average, and he throws 3 interceptions. And they were up 23-0 at the half against what many people all year had said was the most complete team in college. Myself included, was like, this offense is legit. Boy, the Georgia defense had something to prove. And Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann, all week, they set themselves in their offices and they talked to them boys on the practice field. And they said, okay, guys, everybody said, we aren't the standard anymore. People ain't saying that. It's Texas. There's a new sheriff in the SEC. Them boys ain't seen the dogs.
That's why I picked them, man. I picked Georgia specifically.
Boys ain't seen the dog, baby.
I picked the core 4 for that exact reason, because they are not going to take away that sheriff badge from Georgia Bulldogs. You're absolutely right. It was one of those things, man, where it was like, okay, you're not wearing that script A, so you ain't who you think you are. You're not Bama. You don't have something up here on us. You don't have that same edge that Bama has. And I think Georgia did that. They came out and they reminded, they're like, oh, yeah, we are still the number 1 program in the nation. Like, yeah, we might not be the best team this year, and we might not click on offense all the time. But, boy, when this comes together and it's a full picture, we're scary as hell. Jalen Walker, dog. Michael Williams, dog. That whole secondary, I love you, boys. Dalen Everett, dog. It was so satisfying to watch. Because, and I'm sorry, Gary, I'm sorry. I'm just, last thing, I'll let you second here. It was so satisfying to watch because all year you had heard, like, Michael Williams is supposed to be like a top 5 pick, top 3 pick. And, kind of shows up in the Clemson game a little bit, gets hit in the thigh, and he's out. He goes out playing injured, tries to come in, but he just, it's not right. He doesn't look right. That was the first game all year he looked healthy. And, boy, he wreaked havoc. Him and Jalen Walker, that defensive line, they just looked like, oh, so y'all gonna say we not him, we not them, we not the dogs. They just had to remind everybody real quick. Shit-eating.
They sure did.
Look at that.
They sure did. No, look, I mean, man, it was really a defensive display. Like you talked about the Alabama game and how that was real shitty in terms of they came out and didn't look like Georgia. Like they didn't tackle, they didn't have the intensity. It's like, what is happening? But we talked about Tennessee's defense single-handedly helping them to win that game, keep them in the game until Nico could make a big play or two and Dylan was able to run wild and get a couple of touchdowns. Like that's exactly what the Georgia defense did to Texas at Texas, which was even more impressive that they were able to do that at Texas. And now I do understand that I guess when you start throwing things on the field, it can change a call. A referee's call. It still didn't help Texas.
So as far as and we sat there and we like I'm sorry you had to
I wish
listen
we were
to me
sitting.
because I was just like, what? Like, so we're just overturning penalty.
That was
Anyway.
the fourth interception, by the way. That was the fourth interception that should have standed.
No,
Yeah,
it
should've
counted.
stood. You're
They
right.
reversed it. No, that interception counted. That was the third.
That was the
They
third.
gave
Okay.
that. They gave that to Texas. Oh yeah, no, they gave
That's
that to
right.
Texas.
That's right.
You had that. Yeah, they gave
Yes.
that. They did not take that off the board, which I'm fine with because it was the right call. Ultimately, it was the right call. Like that wasn't. It probably should have been OPI. Like Arian pushed off. You could have sold me on it being offensive pass interference. It was 1,000% the right call. My problem is the avenues that we took to get there don't look good. And Kirby said it in his post-game presser, and I'm not even going to try to reword it because it's exactly what it's exactly. You can't put it any better. You have set a precedent that if your fans act a certain way, you have the potential, not guarantee, but potential to have a call swayed because your fans acted a certain way, and it gets played on the big board. And that video team, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing, and they should. Every home team should look at what Texas did on that video board and be like, yep, we should do the exact same thing. Because if it's going to get you a call, why not? Now, I don't agree with them throwing things. You got to act more
Tennessee
mature.
tried to do that. Tennessee tried to do that against, what was it, Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin back in the day. Yep. Didn't work. And it's one of those things, man. We've talked about officiating this year has just been horrendous. It's time, man. This is $1 billion sport. The SEC and the Big Ten make money hand over fist. Make them full-time employees. There's no reason not to. We can't have this. Like, ultimately, I'm glad that the call didn't end up costing Texas or Georgia the game. But when it does, because if this keeps happening, eventually it will. It will screw somebody out of a game. I don't want it to get to that point. Of course. No.
But it's going to get to that point. Have you not watched the NFL? The NFL, this is like the same conversation that half of every fan of every team, half of the nation has a problem with the way the refs call their game if they lost. Listen, it's going to get more confusing. You got sports betting that's going to have a lot bigger impact. You don't want to hear that. No one wants to hear that. But you know what? The reality is refs are going to keep these games close. Refs are going to keep their darlings. And as the sports betting gets bigger, and which, fun fact, at any one point in time before sports betting became legal across states, the largest time that there was the largest bets of all time, like most people, was like 200,000 bets on one game. That is happening on every single day on multiple games. So you're going to see a bigger world of controversy trickling down to the fans in these conversations, which is good for our show because we have a lot to talk about, plenty of content. But there are going to be teams that get screwed in the spirit of keeping games close. Just like the NFL, this is becoming an entertainment industry, and therefore entertainment comes first, not necessarily.
It's always been. So it's always been an entertainment industry. Like the sports are entertainment. Like they're not scripted like WWE as much as some people want to believe that they are. But yeah, it's always been an entertainment thing.
Yeah, I feel like they are sometimes. I've seen it on my team.
It's like,
dude, I see it on my team. I watched the Commanders not this weekend, but last weekend, and I can't remember which receiver it was Brown. He was pointing at the ref and said, like, you check to see if you're offsides or not. And the ref was like, hey, you look good. Literally, hike, throws the flag, you're offsides. I'm like, what the like, I'm telling you, there's a little bit of that stuff going on, and we're going to see more of it. I'm just telling you.
Well, Joseph, I wanted to throw something out to you here because you had a really good explanation. I know a lot of people are talking about, Quinn being pulled and then Arch Manning coming in and then Quinn going back in. My man Mike Bandit Bernard said, kind of crazy that Sark plays musical chairs with his quarterbacks. Talk to me about why you don't believe that's true, because I don't think he does play musical chairs. I think there was a very good explanation as to why he put Arch in that game, in that situation.
Yeah, I don't think, and I don't think he pulled Quinn in a panic situation. Now I believe Sark said in a presser that he pulled Quinn to kind of calm him down a little bit, kind of get him, which is first round quarterback. I don't know if you want to say, hey, we pulled him so we could calm him down a little bit. That's not great. But dude, Arch is a spark, man. He's got more athletic ability than Quinn. At that point, you throw him out there, you see what you can get happen. Because nothing's happening. And when Arch goes out there, it kind of proves, I know some Texas fans are probably like, well, if we would have started Arch the whole time, we would have won. Newsflash. No, you wouldn't have. Because it wasn't Quinn. It wasn't Arch. It was your O-line. They were just getting whipped. Your scheme was just getting figured out. Like, there were plays that could have been made that just weren't getting made, and plays that were there and getting blown up. It wasn't Quinn. It wasn't Arch. They had one big run with Arch, but ultimately I think Sark realized too, there was a play, and I think it was Arch's, I think it was his second drive. He's rolling right, and he's kind of behind the sticks a little bit, and he's looking for a target. In the first 4 or 5 games they played, Arch turns that corner and at least gets back to the line of scrimmage. He may not get yards, but he at least gets back to the line of scrimmage. Jalen hunts him down. Jalen Walker absolutely tracks him down, and that's the difference. I think Sark realized in that moment, it's like that speed that Georgia has on the defense, you're not going to be able to just outrun them. You're not going to be able to just get to the sideline with your quarterback. Yeah, you'll have skill players that can do that. Ryan Wingo can do that. But Arch isn't that guy. He's not that fast. He's not that much of an athlete. Like, he is an athlete. Don't get me wrong. He is an athlete, and he's more of an athlete than Quinn. But he's not exactly Cam Ward. He's not exactly a Lamar Jackson. He's not exactly somebody who's going to outrun these high-speed linebackers to the sideline. And I think when Jalen Walker sacked Arch Manning, Sark was kind of like, okay, so that's not going to work either. But you have to try. You have to try and generate something. And it helped Quinn. It did, because when he come back in, beginning of the second half, he started dealing. But Georgia's defense they were like, okay, you got one. We see what you're doing now. We're going to make plays. So
yeah,
I don't think Sark plays musical chairs, and I don't think it was oh shit, like Quinn's seeing ghosts. Let's see what Arch can do. I think it was like, hey, let's regroup. Let's take a second. Everybody breathe. Arch, see if you can generate a spark. See if you can get loose, get us a 40, 50-yard scramble, something like that. And he did. He got like 30, I think was it 35 yards, 30, 40 yards on that one scramble?
Yeah, he did.
But that was about it, man. I mean, and you can't also, throwing in Arch like that, you have to balance his confidence as well as a backup quarterback. Because there's a picture, and I'm sure you guys seen it. It circulated the internet of Quinn and Arch sitting next to each other on the bench. Did not look like they were having a good time. Did not look like they were having a good time at all.
No. When you're facing that Georgia defense, you generally don't have a great time. Now, with this loss by Texas to Georgia, it kind of sends things a little bit in a tizzy here within the SEC. You have A&M and LSU. We're going to match up this coming weekend, the 2 undefeated teams in the SEC. So somebody's coming out of that game a winner. Somebody will be on top of the SEC. But Joseph, with this win by Georgia and the loss by Texas, talk to me about the state of the SEC right now, because I mentioned the 2 undefeated teams, and you've got Georgia at 4-1, 6-1 overall. Tennessee sitting there at 3-1, 6-1 overall. Missouri somehow still 2-1, 6-1 overall. Then you've got Texas there. Vanderbilt's still in the mix. Then Alabama's dropped all the way down to 8th. So it's kind of very interesting here with the top 8 or 9 spots in the SEC.
It is. And let's go ahead and be tentative. Missouri are on the road at Bama this week. So while they are technically in that 2-1 spot, let's hold off on Brady cooking hospital ball there. Yeah, man, this is definitely not the SEC picture I think we had preseason, where it's like, oh, hey, Texas A&M and LSU are going to play for sole possession of first place in the SEC this weekend. Like, if you would have told me that in the preseason, I would have been like, you're reaching. You're reaching on some kind of FanDuel bet to try to just see if you can get lucky and make this huge cash. No, here we are. LSU and Texas A&M play for sole possession of the SEC at the next Saturday. As far as goals go, if you're LSU, you've really got one in mind. You got to beat Bama. You have to. That's what's going to keep you alive, regardless of what happens this week, because ultimately I think that'll get worked out between Texas and Texas A&M, which is shaping up to be a hell of a game. You've got to beat Alabama. You're LSU. Georgia, you're in the driver's seat, man. I mean, you lost to Alabama. The only loss you have in the SEC, they have 2 losses now. So they're behind you. They're way out of they're not even in the rearview mirror. You ain't got to worry about Bama. You just got to take care of business. You just got to handle it. Do what you do. And Texas, all your goals are still alive. You beat Vandy. I know it's dangerous. You're going Vandy's a real game now. That's a real team. But you got to handle business. You've got a Florida team that seems to be kind of surging. But I think Texas can handle them as well. And then you just, you're looking forward to that big game at the end of the year, Kyle Field, man. Now, if Texas A&M, if you happen to beat LSU, all eyes on Texas. Because, boy, that is the one team that really stands in your way of making the SEC title game. But you got to beat LSU first. You have to beat LSU first if you're A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, talk about it from a Texas perspective and how big that game would be, GT. You grew up there.
The Texas LSU game or the Texas A&M?
Texas A&M
LSU
Texas
game?
A&M.
Texas, yeah.
Texas A&M beats LSU, and then it comes down to that final game at Kyle Field against Texas. I know you talked about it in the beginning of the year, but with how everything's going now and these two teams on like a crash course potentially for the SEC title.
Hold on, I got Thug's Mansion for whatever reason playing in my ears. I don't know why. Thug's Mansion is by Tupac. Where did that come from? Hold on. All right, dude.
This is what
it's true. I'm honest with the people. So, as a Texas boy, listen. I don't know if y'all seen the ticket prices for the Texas A&M game. I mean, there's tickets going for $5,000 a piece. The nosebleeds are $900. You know what I can buy with $900? Nothing, because I don't have it. So I'm telling you, this is a massive game. Texas A&M, the little brother of Texas, scrammed their little butts all the way to the SEC because they could pay for it back in the early 2010s,
2012.
Yeah. So they did that. They thought they had their little thing. Then Texas comes in. They join. They're the big brother. We have been missing this rivalry for years. I mean, people lose family, harmony over these games, especially when I think this game is bigger than any Texas-Oklahoma game that we've seen in the last 10 years. Texas A&M playing Texas in a place where Kyle Field is now not the same Kyle Field that it was over a decade ago. That place is going to, that place sold out George Strait like nothing. That place is going to be even worse when Texas comes to town. So I don't know. As a Texas boy, I'm super excited about this game. I want to see it. Everyone keeps thinking that they're not SEC. Well, wham. They are now. It is what it is. I have grown up there, and I would love to see them back in the conference of my place, the Big 12, but that's not reality. They have too much money. So they are now part of the SEC and the bigger college football fandom. And so I cannot be more emphatic to say that this is a massive game, and Texas A&M is not going to show up and be little brother in that game. I think they're going to try to be big brother, big time.
Big brother, big time.
Big brother, big time. I'm telling you.
Well, before we move on from Texas, there's something Levi posted in the chat about 247 Sports posted Ewers would sit out the rest of the year and prepare for the draft. That was fake news. Quinn Ewers himself come out and said, hey, that's fake news. So somebody at 247 Sports, probably an intern, is no longer an intern anymore, because that's not something you just kind of come out and post. That's not a good look, Chief. Not a good look.
No, not at all. And I didn't think Quinn would do that anyways. Coming off a loss to Georgia, that just seemed kind of weird, that report.
What was more destructive to a fan base? Texas getting humbled by Georgia or Von Bell committing to Ohio State over Tennessee?
Yeah, we'll show that one from TriStar.
What was more destructive to a fan base? Texas getting humbled by Georgia or Von Bell committing to Ohio State over Tennessee? I don't think Texas has
More-
necessarily been overtly humbled by Georgia. I mean, I just think this is the start of a long road of great games, big time. So I don't think that's necessarily the case. So I guess Von Bell going to Ohio State.
Maybe, but I mean, I don't know. That was 2013. So I don't know if your fan base gets destructed because one kid chooses to commit somewhere else. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to have a little more stock in your fan base there, man. Like
Yeah.
I've seen
It was a local
players
kid.
that are legacy players, and like
I don't think
Justice
either one
Haynes
of
is
them affects the fan base at all. I don't think either one.
no,
of them
yeah. I don't think it's destructive, personally.
All right, let's move on to the rest of our core 4 games. And the next one up was a fun game. We actually got the chance to watch the end of it on the big screen before Tennessee, Alabama. Miami survives again, 52-45 at Louisville. And Cam Ward continues to try to find some way to make some magic happen. And he was really good in this game, 320 yards, 4 tutties. Damian Martinez had some big runs in this game. It was a fun game all the way around. Tyler Slow, Shoga. What's his last name? How do you pronounce his last name?
Tyler Shook.
Shook?
I believe it's Shook. Yeah. And
Shough. Shook.
Yeah. Tyler Shook.
He was every bit as good as Cam Ward in this game. They were going blow for blow. This was a fun game.
I think this was the Tyler Shook we expected from Louisville. He transferred in. He was at Texas Tech for a few years, kind of a high-flying offense, a little bit of an air raid, and then comes to Louisville, and it's like, well, Jeff Brom, kind of an offensive guy, like this should work, and it just hasn't quite worked at Louisville. But man, going back to the winners, Miami, their third close game in a row, man. 4 points, 1 point, 7 points. You got Florida State coming in. Florida State. Oh, hello. We have a special guest.
I just wanted to introduce y'all to my daughter. She is up from her nap. She's away from her nap. It's her 1 month birthday today. So she is.
What's up, little girl? Oh my gosh.
Not to derail us, but Mama brought her over here to say hi. So she has the pumpkin patch today. So all right,
I saw that. I saw that.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys had a good time, I'm sure. Philomena.
I'm gonna put her back.
Shout out, Philomena. But man, I don't know, man. It feels like Louisville's just kind of, or not Louisville. Sorry, I said it a few shows back, man. I was a little worried about Miami after the way they played in the Cal game. It feels like this team's gonna get got. Only problem is, I don't really see a team on their schedule that has a chance to get them. Florida State, I mean, you just lost to Duke for the first time forever. You're playing Duke, who almost lost to Florida State, and Florida State's not a good team. Georgia Tech, I mean, Haynes King will be back probably at that point, so that could be a tough game just because Georgia Tech does some weird things. Wake Forest, you should steamroll Wake Forest. And then Syracuse is probably the last game on Miami's schedule.
At the Carrier Dome.
At the Carrier Dome, man. Kyle McCord and the boys, that could really give them some kind of challenge. So, I don't know. I feel like it would do good for Miami to drop a game, especially if you end up in that ACC title game against Clemson. And I know it's Clemson, but Dabo's just like, we're just doing Dabo things over here. Cade Klubnik's just slowly getting better, and I know they haven't played the utmost
beating up bad teams. That's what we do.
Yep. Building quarterback confidence, man. You're building quarterback confidence. Those receivers that we talked about in the offseason that look good in fall camp, they're doing nothing but getting more reps. We knew what that defense was going to be. Peter Woods, the boys. All I'm saying, man, I'm worried about Miami if they roll into that game 12-0. But we'll see. Good win. Cam Ward looks great. Kind of feels like the rest of this year he can just put the team on his back and carry him through the schedule to 12-0. So we'll see, man. I'm really excited for the Syracuse game. I'm probably going to peep the Florida State game, but I mean, I expect Miami to just absolutely roll that team. So
Yep, I'm with you on Miami. Look, they keep having close scares, but they keep finding a way to win. And you can view it in one of two ways. You can say, well, this is a team that keeps just squeaking by. They're not that great. Or, hey, good teams find a way to win close games, even if it's ugly. And, Miami continues to find a way to do that. And, look, I have such an affinity for Cam Ward and what he's been able to do there for Miami. And look, Mario Cristobal has not screwed any games up yet. You got Michael Irvin running wild up and down the sideline. So the Miami vibe is back.
Dude, Michael Irvin, that he was on something else on the sideline with those picks, man. He was all into it. So with that being said, you're loving Cam Ward, and I do too. I think he has had, in any other year, a very Heisman-worthy candidacy for a season. So where do we sit? We're heading into week 10. We're more than halfway done. Where do we sit with the Heisman candidates at this point?
G, you want to start first?
Cam Ward. Maybe Shador a little bit. No, Travis Hunter.
Wow, really?
Ashton Genty.
Obviously. I'm glad you said it, man.
We talked about him, me, you, and Malk, because Malk is all over Travis Hunter, and me and you were like, well, Ashton Genty is doing some incredible things as a running back. And then Malcolm throws in a Malcolm take of, hey, Dylan Sampson's pretty damn good himself, but he's not quite doing what Ashton
I love Miggy. I love Miggy, man. But dude, Miggy is all about hype. Whoever's got the most hype, whoever's name is printed boldest in the pictures, that's who Miggy loves. But I don't know. I think Ashton Genty, dude, what he's doing at Boise State, you're absolutely right. He's having a Barry Sanders year, which is crazy.
That is rarefied air, man. There is not even when Derrick Henry was doing Derrick Henry things and Mark Ingram was doing what he was doing, like nobody was like, well, they're doing Barry Sanders. They're doing Barry Sanders numbers. It was like there was probably a point where Derrick Henry was like, well, if he keeps up this production, he can get close to Barry Sanders. No. We're talking about Ashton Genty breaking that record. A record that stood for 35 years. It's not like someone's been close to Barry Sanders. Ashton Genty's doing Heisman running back things, man. He's just doing Heisman running back things. And I love Travis. I do. I love Travis because what he's doing is incredible. Him and Shador are kind of carrying Colorado. And to play that many snaps is just it speaks volumes to not only his preparation and his commitment to the game, but his commitment to recovery and his commitment to being available. Because to play 100 and something snaps in multiple games is tough, man. Even if you're not playing at the highest level of college football, no, he's not playing Alabama. He's not playing Texas. He's not playing Tennessee. He's not playing Ohio State every week. I get that.
Neither was Barry Sanders.
Neither was Barry Sanders. And to play 100 and something snaps, I don't know. Personally, I have my vote, and my vote is for Ashton Genty. If Travis won the Heisman, I wouldn't complain. Because for the first time, for the first time in probably since Joe Burrow, I felt like we really are on track to give the Heisman to the best player in college football instead of just the player with the best stats on the best team.
So back in 1985, there's a talking about two-way players. There was a player for the Holy Cross, University of Holy Cross, who played two ways, and he was a finalist for the Heisman next to Brian Bosworth and Vinny Testaverde.
Your boy, Brian Bosworth.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I know this story. But nonetheless, he at Holy Cross as a two-way player finished third in the Heisman race against arguably the greatest linebacker of all time and the best quarterback of that year. So Travis Hunter, the argument can be made to go piggyback off of Miggy. The argument can be made that Travis Hunter is of greater quality than a Holy Cross player back in '85. So if he's playing both ways, he should finish higher than at least third. So I think it's going to come down to Ashton Genty and Travis Hunter. Very different situations. But my big hot take when it comes to the Travis Hunter situation and the Shedeur Sanders is as soon as those kids leave, bye-bye Dion. I think he's out. I think he leaves.
Interesting. I could see it, but I hope he doesn't. Colorado needs. I need Colorado to be.
I grew up with Deion Sanders Jr. He played in the Marcus High School when I was at Hebron High School. We're in the same grade. That is all they are about, is the hype of their own people, of their own family, and then they tend to just drop everything once it's done. That's just from what I saw in high school with his other son, who, listen, that's not, I don't know the kid, it's never the case, but like I did play against him growing up, and that's just what I've noticed from the family. So I can see him absolutely dipping out after his kid graduates and say, I'm going to retire. I did my job. I got my son to the league, just like LeVar Ball did with his kids.
Wow. I think he likes coaching enough. I don't think he's going to retire.
Okay. That's fine. That's just a hot take. It's a Mickey take, but.
And I don't think I don't know if he's coached his way into like an NFL position.
You think he wants to go and be an NFL coach?
I think if he could coach Shedeur, maybe.
Yeah.
I think that's about the only way. I don't think he would just go to the NFL to go to the NFL. Like Deion kind of seems like the way he carries himself, the way he wants to kind of have his influence on a program. And just from videos I've seen where he's like, yeah, like we don't wear sweatpants to class. We don't do this. We act this way. We sit in the front. Like it seems like he has a very molding young men mindset. And that fits better in college than it does teaching X's and O's to grown men in the NFL.
That's
to me,
very true.
that's just me. But
I would say Deion, it seems like he's a guy who does care about kids. He does care about kids. I think he wants to be an inspiring person. I don't know, man. I just think if it was my son and my life, and Travis Hunter is like his little, like it was his project, right? Like he went from Jackson State. I mean, you only followed you to Jackson State because you heavily invested in that kid's youth.
Yeah.
So
and you're Deion.
And so you're investing in that.
Doesn't hurt.
But he did that in Dallas, guys. Like my Keontae Griffin, he was a Baylor Bear. I played football with him, basketball with him, growing up my whole life. He was one of the Deion kids. He was like so athletic that you become part of the Deion kid, community where he like tries to build you up, and he likes to, and he will stamp his name on it, as he should. And Keontae's a wonderful athlete, but there's only a handful of kids, like G says it, the cream rises to the top. Travis Hunter's the cream did rise to the top, the ultimate top. I just don't see him just handing off that kid to the NFL and saying, I'm not a part of your development anymore. I don't know. I just feel like he wouldn't want to be a part of that.
Well, what if he goes to a team with an already established head coach and it's like, well, I can't be part of that staff? You think he'll just take any position on a coaching staff?
I think sports and nepotism is finally here. Welcome to Bronny James joining the Lakers. And I think you're absolutely going to see a lot more of this. I don't think that's a far stretch at all. You see it in one place, it's going to happen in another place because the precedent has then been set. So I think you can absolutely see, like, hey, Deion, we're going to make a deal with you. We'll take Shedeur if he doesn't go in the first round, in the second round, and then we can open up a
Shedeur's
spot
going to go in the first round.
Shedeur's going, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Especially the way that. Go ahead.
No, so I didn't. Okay, I don't know. Yeah. I don't pay enough attention to Shedeur particularly, but
he's. Oh, go ahead, G. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask a question. You go on that. You go off that topic, that thought, and I'll ask the question after you're done.
Just last thing is Shedeur has I think he's kind of made his way to QB1 with the way that Quinn and Carson have kind of looked this year. I don't know if anybody would really want to take Dylan Gabriel over Shedeur. So I kind of think Shedeur's kind of worked his way to that QB1 this year. So I couldn't see him moving past the first round.
Okay. My question was going to be, let's say Shedeur does go in the first round. Let's look at some shitty NFL teams that could use a quarterback and maybe have a meh head coach that could be fired that you could say, hey, we'll draft Shador and we'll hire Dion as the head coach.
New York Jets.
Well, I was looking at the Cleveland Browns maybe with their quarterback situation, not great.
Dude, I mean,
Jacksonville. No, you don't want Jacksonville because they've got Trevor Lawrence.
They just spent too much money on him. There's no way.
Yeah, you've got Trevor. I mean,
Las Vegas.
It's not the Panthers.
I can say Neon Dion in Vegas.
Neon Dion.
Maybe the Chargers. Chargers is not a bad one.
No,
Chargers
they just got
Jim
Harbaugh.
And Herbert's better than Shador.
Just Herbert, yeah.
But I don't think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's a backup, dude. There's no way Shador Sanders is not a QB1 in the NFL.
Damn it, they're going to try. They're going to try him in Las Vegas.
Somebody's going to try. Yeah, somebody's going to try.
The Giants?
Hear me out, man. Hear me out. This is a reach. The Rams, if Stafford retires and Sean McVay follows and retires.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because I mean,
Sean McVay would leave. He's like 35.
McVay's already toyed.
He's already contemplating retirement.
Yeah, like after they won the Super Bowl and Aaron Donald was like, "Yeah, I'm going to hang it up soon." McVay was kind of like, "Well, I'm going to see." Like, I could see McVay hang it up after Stafford. Like when Stafford's like, "Yeah, I'm out, guys." McVay's like, "I'm gone too." I don't know. Maybe not, but I could see that.
I could see McVay if he wanted to take maybe his little step back, maybe just being like kind of what Cliff Kingsbury's doing and going and being like an offensive coordinator. Maybe a little less responsibility, a little less money, but stays around the game if that's what he wants to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean those are a couple of interesting places, from the Rams to the Raiders,
the Dolphins,
the Giants.
Yeah, they just benched Daniel Jones, which who's their backup again?
Drew Lock.
Drew Lock.
They did say Daniel's going to be the starting quarterback in Week 8, so there's still that. But regardless, it's just bad in New York. Dayball seems to be kind of on that hot seat as well. You just got Malik Neighbors. You pair him with Shador, like that could be interesting.
That's fireworks for sure. Like that sells tickets. That sells tickets more than Daniel Jones.
100%. 100%.
Like, yeah.
Ain't nobody going to watch a football game because Daniel Jones is the starting quarterback.
And people loved him coming out of college because he was a part of like the Manning circle and all that nonsense.
That's why they drafted him.
Yeah, and that's the only because who was in front of him? It was Eli. Was it Eli? What do you mean?
Eli Manning was there.
Not as a Giant, but I'm saying in the draft class. Because it was a decision between Daniel Jones and somebody else.
He was drafted in. Was he drafted in Burrow's year? And Burrow and Trevor's year, 2019. Was that when Daniel Jones was drafted?
I don't know.
Let me see.
I don't remember.
Type this in. I've never typed.
You got it.
Yeah, Daniel Jones draft year.
2019, round 1, pick 6. So he would have been behind Trevor and Joe. He was the third quarterback off the board.
Who did he go in front of?
Dude, okay, so here we go.
Somebody. He went in front of Lamar, didn't he?
It was Kyler Murray, Nick Bosa, Quentin Williams, Clelin Ferrell, Devin White. Daniel Jones went before let's see. Dwayne Haskins.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. for sure. Like people like Josh Jacobs, for example, Montez Sweat.
Give me the quarterbacks.
If
you see him.
Dwayne Haskins was the only other quarterback taken in the first round.
Like it was so Kyler Murray, I guess. Draft. Yeah, so I mean, listen, luck at the freaking draw of your birth year, buddy. Like you just happened to go into this draft class because the next draft class would have been Joe Burrow. It would have been all those other, like Lamar Jackson, all those other guys.
Yeah, 2020 was Joe Burrow, Tua, Justin Herbert. When was Trevor drafted? Was Trevor drafted?
Was he 18?
No, he played Burrow. Trevor and Clemson
yeah,
played
he
Burrow
did.
in the Natty, so
In
it would have
the
had to be in the
Natty,
same
yeah.
class.
Maybe it was the class after.
Was it?
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, it was after. He was 2021.
Yeah,
Trevor was
there we go.
2021.
Yeah, Daniel Jones was just a luck of the draw. You happened to be in the only year that there was no quarterbacks.
Yeah, you were in a really good class. So,
all right, last thing I wanted to touch on when it comes to college football, fellas. We'll mention the other game. South Carolina smokes Oklahoma. Not much to really talk about there. Beamer ball just steamrolled, and in Norman.
The biggest takeaway from that game, man, is Oklahoma fired their offensive coordinator Seth Luttrell. I don't know if Luttrell was the problem. I mean, I don't know. I haven't studied enough about Luttrell and when the last time he called plays was, and I don't know the internals of the locker room. If he was, I don't know if he was pulling for them to bench Jackson Arnold or not, or if that was, I don't know the struggles with that. So it kind of seems like Luttrell was I don't want to say the scapegoat, but in a year where things have gone off the rails and you're Brent Venables, somebody's got to go. And the defenses look too good to fire your DC. So naturally you move to the other side of the ball. It's hard to follow up Jeff Levy. He's a hell of an offensive mind. I'm very interested to see where Oklahoma goes for their OC hire. So
yeah, we'll see what happens there. Yeah, we'll see what happens there. All right, there was an interesting post on social media that our boy Chase Green, shout out to him, not able to be here tonight, dealing, with Gracie and whatnot, and making sure everything's good with her. When it came to college football,
she's fine, by the way, for the viewers. She's okay. She's just
it's just a little meltdown.
She's just a newborn. She's just a newborn.
Not to cut you off, G. Like she's doing fine.
Yeah, she's fine. It's all good. There are a bunch of different teams with different odds to make the college football playoff. And there are a couple of teams, obviously the upper echelon ones like Georgia, Oregon, Miami, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, and Tennessee will all have really good chances to make the college football playoff. Now, there's a bunch of other teams, not as good opportunities to make the college football playoff. So the question is, between the teams that are in the yellow and red in terms of, making the college football playoff, which team has the best opportunity to make a run? I really wish we could show this graphic because I think it would help the listeners out or the watchers out to see exactly who we're talking about. But regardless,
Chase has the ability to do that. I don't know how to do that. So what's the teams then?
All right, so the teams we're looking at are Indiana, Notre Dame, Iowa State. It's on the doc if you want to look at the doc, GT. Iowa State, Boise State, Alabama, Clemson, BYU, LSU, K-State, Texas A&M, and then we're getting into the red with SMU, Army, Ole Miss, UNLV, Missouri, Wazoo, Pitt, and Tulane. Are you trying to get it up there, Joseph? I see you messing around with it.
Yeah, I was trying to save it real quick and add it, but the computer's not cooperating. So
I'll say that Indiana Hoosiers team, I mean, they're making some waves in the Big Ten. That, no doubt about it. They're 7-0 for the first time in like 2 decades or something like that. So
yep.
It's like, I mean, and the coach has a lot of chutzpah, if you know what I mean. Like, that's my shout out my New York.
What a word.
Kurt Signetti?
What a pull.
He is straight up said, I mean, look at my record. I just win. Like, so he's got the culture right. I believe in the culture. I am a culture guy. If the culture looks good, you're going to win games and you're going to put yourself in a position to succeed. So Indiana's that one team where I think that's going to wow, that's a basketball school in the CFP. Because I do think that you can't have 5 SEC teams. I just don't think you can do it. But I think you can do like 3 SEC teams. You're going to get maybe 3 Big Ten, maybe 4 SEC or Big Ten. But you're going to have at least one of a conference champion in each one. So yeah. I think Indiana ends up at least as a 2 or a 3rd, ranked Big Ten team easily.
So there's a decent chance that Indiana is 11-1 because they won't play they wouldn't play in the Big Ten title game if they end up 11-1. The thing I'm concerned about the most is Curtis Rorick is out indefinitely with a broken finger.
Okay.
So I'm curious to see how they look this week. Washington, they're not a great football team, but they're not a bad football team. It's I think they'll be okay, but I'm very interested to see what this team looks like without Curtis Rorick. They were able to obviously bury Nebraska last week with their backup quarterback coming in, but at that time and point in the game when he came in, the game was kind of already over. So this is wire to wire, start to finish, backup QB. What you got, man? What's the Sig man gonna do for us now?
So he's out for the whole season.
No, just out indefinitely. They don't know how long he's going to be out. So he'll probably, if I had to guess, obviously he's out for the Washington game. Typically when they throw out that indefinitely term, that's 2 weeks to me. That means at least 2 weeks. So I would look for him to make it back for the Michigan game, because if I'm Kurt Cignetti and I'm the Indiana staff, if it goes well against Washington this week, then you've got to feel good about your chances against Michigan State the next week, even though that game's on the road. We know Michigan State's in a bit of a rebuilding phase. They're not doing great yet. Jonathan Smith's going to get the boys on the right track. Aiden Childs is still very green. So,
I mean, look,
you got to feel good about your chances.
Washington, Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, Purdue. They play the only road games they have are against Ohio State, so I think they'll lose that game. And Michigan State. So the rest of those other big games are home games. I think this is a team that you can bet on. I think backup quarterback 100%. Or not, that coach, man, I should have. I didn't do a lot of research on him before he joined this organization, of course. But I mean, he's got chutzpah, baby.
He was on track, man. Him and JMU were, taking souls last year until. Him and JMU were taking souls last year until College Game Day went down to JMU, and App State was like, "Oh, hey, bud, we're the giant killers around here." So we'll see.
I'll say the one team that out of the Big 12 though, BYU, I think that's a catalyst team. I think that's
shut up. Why are you taking two teams? That was the team I was going to take.
Then take them. You didn't say anything. Your fuzzy cameras over here.
You were waiting. You said one, and then you were like, "No, another team." I'm like, "Son of a bitch, Garrett."
Okay, well,
I was just going to talk about BYU. I love the backdrop. I love the backdrop of their stadium. It looks incredible. And this is a team who right now is 7-0. They're first in the Big 12. What is this? Their first year in the Big 12. They've already had to go through second year in the Big 12. Thank you, Joseph. They've already had to go through some tough tests. They had to go on the road to a decent SMU team. They won at Wyoming, who, granted, not that great, but it is what it is. They beat your Baylor Bears on the road. They won against Kansas State. They smoked Kansas State in that game at home, and they smoked Arizona as well. They were able to get a nice home win against Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy last week. So this is a team that, yes, they don't feel like a big time program right now, but you look at their record and look at some of the wins that they've already gotten on this season. They've been tested. They've gotten some big wins. They've been able to overcome every single challenge they've had this year, and they have some really good players. The defense is good, and the offense has two receivers that are over 400 yards receiving already this year. They've got a really good dynamic offense. Their quarterback does worry me a little bit. He's a running quarterback. And what's his name? Retzlaff?
I think it's Retzlaff,
whatever. He scares me a little bit. He's not he's only got a 59% completion percentage. He's got 16 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, so he throws the ball away a little bit. But you look at some of their wide receivers, and like I said, Lassiter and Roberts, they're two big time guys. They've got over 400 yards each receiving, 4 and 3 touchdowns. So this can be an offensive juggernaut type of team that can really, I think, make some noise. I believe they could win a game in the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I don't see why. I mean, now remind me, does the college football playoffs, is it going to be kind of like a college World Series situation? Not World Series, but like the regional games where hey, you're two teams going to Knoxville, for example, to play those?
The first round is at home. So 5 will play 12 and so on and so forth. And those games will be on campus. The highest seed will host. 1 through 4 get a bye. BYU very well could get a bye.
If they get a home game, that's a hard place to play, especially
they won't. If they get a bye, they won't get a home game. But if they do sneak in at that 5th seed, which would be, I feel like BYU at this point is either. Well, I don't know, man. I don't know. If they lose the Big 12 title game, that's a whole bag of worm. I don't know. A lot of season left. But I love the BYU pick there. So love the BYU pick there.
Thanks. What do you got, Joseph?
Man, we're talking about stealing answers. I was on BYU. I was on this train, man. Oh gosh. There's a couple of teams that I'm looking at. Obviously, I agree with Garrett. Indiana's good. I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it, man. I don't
say it.
I don't necessarily. We're talking about teams that could win a playoff game, right?
No, just pick the team that you think is going to make it. I think.
No, I think what the question was a team that has an opportunity to make some noise in the college football playoff, like to win a game.
Oh, in it. Okay.
Yeah.
Man, it's LSU. I mean, the way that this team's coming together, the way that they're surging, the defense looks better with Harold Perkins off the field, which I didn't think was possible. But Whit Weeks is an absolute animal. That man's flying all over the field. Saw a video of him earlier today. Pulled a do-rag off, white boy with cornrows. So he's raw. He's all over the field, man. Like LSU seems to be surging right now. It seems like they're kind of one of these teams that they got written off because they got beat by USC, and it turns out USC kind of sucks. So people were like, well, LSU must suck, and they've just quietly been winning games. They pull a rabbit out of their hat in LSU and that voodoo magic in the swamp. Like, they beat Ole Miss, and they're just kind of quietly waiting. Like, we got Texas A&M on deck. We're LSU. We have one of the best rosters year in and year out because we're LSU. I think they could beat a top 4 seed. I think they could.
So that brings up our boy Bernard. Do you think that LSU beats Texas A&M this weekend?
Who wins?
They have to do that for this scenario to work out. They have to win for you, whatever the scenario that you're making up. It needs to happen.
They have to beat. They do have to beat Texas A&M to win out. If I had to pick somebody to win out, it's LSU. I mean, for the sheer fact that Texas still has to play Texas A&M.
I think the question was who wins out of that game, like just between Texas A&M and LSU. Yes.
Okay.
So LSU has to beat Texas A&M this weekend for the scenario that you're proposing to work out. So how do you feel about that game? Is it in College Station or Baton Rouge?
It's in College Station.
Okay.
And it's a night game. So right now I'm kind of leaning LSU. I mean, if we're talking about it from a confidence meter, it's probably like 52-48, 51-49 in terms of like percentage chance I feel confident in who's going to win. I'm leaning LSU, but I haven't done a full deep dive into that game. I'd still like to go back and watch A&M versus Mississippi State because I didn't really get a good chance to do that. I think Mississippi State's got something with that Van Buren kid, so I'd like to see what he was able to do against Texas A&M. So I think right now I'm probably on a slight lean to LSU. So
okay,
but we'll see. That pick could change by the time we make picks on Thursday. So
yeah, we will have another. They're playing this weekend, right?
They play this weekend. Yep.
That'll certainly be one of our core 4 picks as Garrett just continues to light up. It's just I got
a fan. I got a fan over here, and it just keeps blowing out.
Just blowing me out. Turn off that damn fan, then.
You know, my wife walked in here and was like, "Is that a cigar?" And I was like, "It's the third Saturday in October. I'm doing it for the boys." He's like,
"Baby,
your daughter."
I'm back on the live. We gotta roll. We gotta let it happen.
A month off, man.
The boys let us do a virtual show so we could be back and I could show the world my daughter. We are so happy that you're able to be back.
Thank you, baby.
All right, let's talk a little NFL because we haven't really gotten an opportunity to talk much NFL here. Did you guys have anything else on college football?
I guess closing thoughts. I really like this graphic you put in. The way I feel about LSU, I also kind of feel about Clemson. I think that team's just slowly improving, and I think they'll be, trending up towards one of the best versions of themselves by the time the year rolls around, or the end of the year rolls around. I'm hoping we get Clemson and Miami in the ACC title game. I'm hoping nobody screws up and somehow SMU gets in there or something. But I'd really enjoy watching a Clemson Miami ACC. So that's my closing thought on the graphic from teams that could make noise.
Mr. Cigar, you got anything else?
No, I can't imagine after an hour and a half I have anything left to say about college football.
Well said. All right, let's venture over to the National Football League. And we'll start with just the ugly of the Tennessee Titans. They fall again at the hands of the Bills. And this was actually a close game for most of the game until the turnovers started getting to Tennessee and they stopped being able to move the football. And Josh Allen was like, hey, I'm going to utilize my new weapon in Amari Cooper. And, it was the third time that the Titans failed to force any turnovers this season. They're -9 in the turnover department this year overall. And look, the defense played extremely well for about 2.5 quarters or so. And then Josh Allen and the Bills just found a way to kind of break them open a little bit. And I just feel like it's the same topics that we keep talking about with the Tennessee Titans. The offensive line stinks. It doesn't matter who's behind that offensive line. They're not going to have success because it's so bad. I don't care if DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, Amari Cooper, Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson are out there at the receiver position. It's bad for the Tennessee Titans. It's all predicated up front. Mason Rudolph, we know, is Mason Rudolph. Will Levis is Will Levis. And at one point, oh my gosh, it was so funny. We were watching football yesterday, Jamarius and I, in the living room, and we're watching the Chiefs. And Patrick Mahomes hasn't been quite Patrick Mahomes this year. And he says, he throws a Miggy take out of me. He goes, it kind of really seems like, I don't know why we're not talking more about Patrick Mahomes being more Will Levis-esque this season.
Interesting.
But just luckier. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That is a terrible take. Stop it. Do not compare Patrick Mahomes to Will Levis. Patrick Mahomes, I don't care who's out there. You could be playing receiver, GT, and he still finds a way to win football games.
Yeah, that's a reach.
Miggy and Jamarius are just kind of one and the same.
They are two peas, buddy. I don't know how you deal with both of it, I really don't.
Some way, somehow, we find a way.
Power through, brother.
Yeah, you just got to power through every once in a while.
The Titans, like you said, I mean, they're 1-5. They're not a team that's going to make any damage this year. At this point, I think you just call it for what it is and prep yourself for a wonderful draft. I think you make every move to make this draft make the most sense to you. But you're right. It's the O-line. I was thinking about this because as you were talking, I was like, yeah, maybe Shador. What did that make sense? Because Mason Rudolph, that can't be your guy. But if you don't got nobody to block for the fella, I mean, there's no way that's gonna work. So I think you just. Oh my!
Speaking of the Tennessee Titans, he's like, I gotta jump in.
Baby, we're good.
Orange down, boys. Orange down.
Hell yeah.
Dude, just
we were just talking about the Tennessee Titans, so this is the perfect time for you to jump in.
I'm gonna go ahead and go. Let me just see myself out.
Yeah, I'm out of here. See you, boys. Tough life right now, boys. Tough life.
Yeah.
Well, what about tell me about the Titans, Chase? Tell me about the Titans.
They're not good right now, boys. We are a long ways away from good. If Mason Rudolph is supposed to be your savior, that's a terrible spot to be.
That's exactly what Garrett just said.
What are we supposed to do? Where do you go from here? Are you looking for? Do you just want to lose everything? Like, I mean, the
Suffer.
defense was supposed to be so good, but how do you play just awful all the time? I don't know how you go from hopeful in a pretty negative conference or division to now you're the worst team maybe in the NFL besides the Panthers. Anybody have any advice, thoughts?
Alcohol. that's not a good solution. I guess you gotta grin and bear it. Like look forward to the future that you are going to get a good draft pick.
Yeah.
Now, will that draft pick be used properly? I don't know, but you'll have it. so.
What do you need to do if you're Rand Carthon in the draft? Do you still go and attack the offense? It's got to be the offensive line, right? You got to continue to pour into the offensive line.
Yeah, you go offensive line, but I was trying to listen a little bit. Like, there's not. I guess Shadur's the guy. I guess, but I don't know if there's a quarterback that you want that fits the bill right now. Like, do you want to reach for Shadur? Do you want to reach for definitely not Quinn?
Cam Ward?
Who?
Like
Cam,
Cam
Ward or Cam, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Cam sometimes seemed worth it to me, and then other times I'm like, I don't know if the personality fits the bill sometimes.
Listen,
I love
Chase.
Cam Ward.
I've kind of gotten on this train. Okay. Now hear me out. I've kind of gotten on this train a little bit. Okay. Just been pitching this idea. I think it'd be good. You go with the offensive line. You spend your draft picks there. You're beefing them up a little bit, and you sign Joe Flacco. And you have a serviceable season with a veteran quarterback. You wait for next year's draft because that's a better quarterback class. See what happens.
So you're telling me I have to wait 3 more years, basically.
I mean,
Yes.
There's nobody in the college game that could come in and just like, there's not a Caleb. There's not a,
No. There's not a Jaden.
There's not a Jaden Daniels.
Well, here's my thing. If you do have one, say you did have one of those guys in the draft, if you don't have the offensive line to protect him, like that could ruin a good young quarterback. So that's why it makes so much sense to continue to pour into that offensive line, solidify that offensive line, and then go get your guy. It sucks. You're right, Chase. It's awful. You have to wait 2-3 more years potentially to build up that offensive line and get the guy that you're hoping for. But it sucks when you get a guy like Joe Burrow or an Andrew Luck and you don't have the offensive line solidified. Then they get hurt. They can't play. It's a mess. And then you just sit there wondering, man, what could have been with all of this potential if only we could have protected our quarterback.
I know. And that's the worst part is we can't block anybody. You can just tell the morale's so down. And you go out and you get Papa Callahan along with Bill. I mean, the Callahan situation's been very lackluster. You can tell there is a lot of work that needs to be done. Time management, game management, that stuff is clearly showing we have a rookie in the head coaching realm. Like there's a lot of that stuff that needs to be worked on, and temperament. There's things. He's got a long ways to go. But when we're supposed to get Papa Callahan to turn around this offensive line, and you see none of that, none of it, man. It's heartbreaking, dude. And you're like, golly bum. We go out and get the flashy guys. We get the Ridleys. We go out and get all these 2 corners that Snead's not been very good. We've had a lot of good guys, step up this year. Our front's always gonna be very solid, but I don't know, boys. I don't know where do you go, because the 2 biggest position areas are quarterback and offensive line right now. It feels like in the NFL, wide receivers are great and all that stuff, but if you have a bad offensive line, you have a bad quarterback, you're not going to win football games. And we don't have either one of those. That's a scary thought.
What do you realistically? I want to know what you think your chances are, and also how would you feel about it? What do you think? Is there any chance you could get Bryce from Carolina? Would you even want that? Then you can draft
because
O-line.
if it'd be hard. It'd be really hard to. I mean, you would have to be like the best offensive line in the world.
Mhm.
I don't.
You got to
want
get the best and the shortest offensive lineman in the world.
Yes, all at the same time. I need guys that are 5'11", 295, and very elusive and strong.
Yeah,
I need 5, really 7 freaks of nature that are all below 6 feet. Is all I would need. That's it.
Not a good
So
look.
if you can find those for me, Joseph, in this draft, then that'd be great. That'd be great. Why would you think Bryce?
Because it seems like Carolina's going to deal him, and he seems like somebody that could at least be serviceable, as opposed to some of the other backup quarterbacks you could get from around the league. Because I'm assuming we're basing this off of the idea that it would be a better strategy to start building on the offensive line and build around the quarterback, build from the front to the back, instead of drafting Shador or Cam, or
Yeah.
you'd probably draft like Kelvin Banks or somebody like that.
Yeah, I think you would have to, if you want to win faster, and if you think this defense is good enough to keep you in games, keep you in every game, then yeah, I think you have to go with the strategy of let's get offensive line, let's cover ourselves and make sure whoever's under center is, well, in shotgun, let's be honest nowadays. Whoever's in shotgun is going to be protected. That was a good deal for that really good Tannehill year. It was similar. Mm-hmm. Like the scheme was great. Don't get me wrong, Art crushed it. But for the most part, our offensive line was really good, and it made Tannehill look really good. So you can do things if you have a pretty special offensive line. I just don't know if somebody like Bryce, I mean, it can't be worse, but I mean, how much better is it really going to get?
Yeah.
I love you guys. My baby needs me now. But
all right. Peace out.
Peace to it. It's great to see you, GT. Glad we got to meet Philomena virtually and introduce her to the world. Go take care of your baby girl. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, boys. Love you all. Bye.
Peace, buddy.
Peace.
Hearts forever.
All the hearts, all the love. Yeah, it's not a good situation there in Nashville. They've got to figure something out. Are you rooting for them to continue to lose, or how does that work for you as a fan at this point?
As a fan at this point, we made the judgment call this weekend. I have been allowed, as paternity leave's going pretty solid, I've been allowed to move both TVs upstairs, and we have put the Titans game on the quieted side TV. That's where we're at as a fan. I will continue to watch, but I was like, I had a great Saturday. I don't want it to be ruined. So we're pushing the Titans to the side, and whatever happens this year. If they win, great. If they lose, probably right. It is what it is. I really thought about, I can't do it. I was looking around on Fanatics. I was thinking about switching fan bases. Nothing caught my eye. Nothing really caught my eye, so I didn't buy a shirt anywhere else. I really wanted to hop on the Falcons train, but I was like, no, I can't do that to them. And then they sucked that day. So I was like, I'm out. I'm just going to go pure fantasy football, fun, NFL talk all year. Titans are off to my wayside. They will not ruin my Sundays, boys. They will not ruin my Sundays.
Hey, now that the Packers may actually have a kicker, you can come on, join the Cheesehead bandwagon. We held CJ Stroud down big time.
I can't do that. I can't join that.
In that game.
Gotta stay loyal to the boys.
Can't.
That's a great division right now.
It's a great division. Dude. A great division. I don't understand what success is like in the NFL sometimes. So I'm gonna leave that to you, buddy. I don't want to put any bad juju on you.
I appreciate it. We'll take the college success all day long.
All day long, brother.
Yeah. So speaking of the Falcons, I kind of wanted to just touch on them quickly. They had a a weird game against Seattle. I didn't really get a chance to lock in on this game, but I just continued to see on Red Zone and things like that. They just got beat up. Like, this is kind of a weird team. Like, right when you think that they're about to turn the corner, they beat the Bucks in exciting fashion. They beat up on the Panthers on the road. And then they host Seattle and lay an absolute egg and lose by 20. I don't get it. I don't know what to think about this Falcons team right now. And I wish Miggy was here because obviously he could speak a little bit more near and dear to his heart. But, Kenneth Walker kind of ran all over them. Geno threw a couple of touchdowns, and the defense was really good in terms of defending Kirk Cousins. And, I know Bijan got his, but nobody else really went off in this game.
No, this was a beatdown. That defense, that's the worst it's looked all year. That was a rough go, man. I was, what you got out of last week when you got Algier and Bijan just going ham. You're thinking, dude, this offense is going to be so tough to stop the rest of the year. Did not happen. Did not happen, brother.
No, it was a lot of punts, 3 and outs, a missed field goal on a long drive early in the game from Younghoe Koo, which you don't normally see.
Nope.
Then you had a fumble return for a touchdown by Seattle, then followed that next drive with an interception by Kirk Cousins, and then another interception. So it was like 3 straight possessions of turnovers, and that was basically the game there for Atlanta. And it was just bad to see. I mean, just a bad week. I'm hoping that it's just a bad week and we can kind of just chalk it up to that and they can get back on their winning ways. Now they do have to play Tampa Bay, who's at this moment when we're recording, doing obviously the live show, they're losing to Baltimore at home 20-10 in the third quarter. But you've got to go and you got to face Tampa Bay next week. And that's going to be a pivotal test for this division. And, you already beat the Bucks once, so you would assume that they might be able to shake back and beat you. And if that happens, both teams go into that matchup 4-3, then you go 4-4, and Tampa's, 5-3, and that could be a little bit of an issue. So I don't know. The Falcons seem like they're in a weird spot. They're not in a bad spot. They're just kind of in a weird spot right now.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that was kind of that was a get off the mat game for Seattle. I mean, you're on a 3-game losing streak. You played the Lions. You have a bad loss to the Giants, and then you play the 49ers. So it's like you played 2 solid teams, and you're on a 3-game losing streak. Like it's kind of a like, okay, boys, let's get off the mat. We're a good team, and I think that kind of showed up for the Seahawks.
You know what's interesting about this season? The injuries right now are insane. I feel like every single weekend there is a good handful of players that are going down. We lost Ayuk for the season. We lost Deshaun Watson for the season. DK Metcalf's going to be week to week. Christian McCaffrey's not going to come back next week. We've got Cooper Kupp, who's supposed to come back this week. He didn't make it back. He'll probably be back next week. I don't know. It just seems like there's always this rash of injuries right now that's happening and just running rampant throughout the National Football League.
Not even, dude, yeah. Deebo Samuel's got like pneumonia.
Yeah,
he's got some form of pneumonia. Like what?
Now
happened?
we're seeing the real Brock Purdy when he's got no weapons and nobody to throw to. He's kind of a regular dude.
That was a bad game yesterday. That was a bad game for both quarterbacks, really.
Game. Yeah, both good defenses too.
Yeah, both very good defenses. You got the best out. Then Mustafa had his welcome to the NFL moment yesterday. That was pretty great from Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
that's pretty great. I kind of wondered too, and I know they're gonna look at it from an investment standpoint. I would like to know, like, if you could just drop people back, like in the 90s, like when you're just not making as much money, when they're not this big of an investment, like how many weeks you would cut off from like an injury standpoint. It's like, oh, you're definitely coming back. Like if it's a 4-week injury now, it's like a 2-week injury in the 90s. It's like,
yes,
that's how different it is in this world. It's like, hey, we value our guys a little bit more and their bodily harm. I always kind of wonder about that.
Back then, it was just like, hey, just throw them back out there. You can see straight. Yeah. How many fingers am I holding up? 2? Okay, good.
Yeah. So it's like it's so much different now.
And the mindset from players was different. Like I think you see that in some of these documentaries about the early 2000s and like Ray Lewis and Ryan Clark and how they played and their mentality going into games was just like, yeah, my leg's broken. I ain't coming off the field. No way. Ain't no way in hell.
My leg's broken. I'm coming off the field. Oh, that's pretty wild. Anything else stand out to you guys now that we've sort of talked about the Titans and the Falcons? It was good to see Amari Cooper making an impact. I know for the Jets, we talked about Devontae Adams and his impact that he would potentially have coming back with Aaron Rodgers and the synergy that they had. The Jets seem like they're in not a similar spot to the Titans, where the Titans have a much worse quarterback, but they have a lot of skill position players that should be pretty good. But their biggest issue, again, is the offensive line. Like Aaron Rodgers might be a little bit off here and there, but I also think it comes down to that offensive line is just so putrid that he just doesn't have the time that he needs to deliver the ball to Garrett Wilson or an Allen Lazard or Devontae Adams. And you saw that against a really good Steelers pass rush last night. And Elijah Vera Tucker went out in that game, speaking of injury. So they're probably their best offensive lineman right now. And it's just things don't look good for Jeff Albright, Aaron Rodgers, and company in Gotham right now.
They do not. I was thinking about that earlier when you were talking about offensive line. I was like, that's the biggest one. It's a very good point, G, because like you look at the skill position around, and it goes to show you just how far it goes. Because I mean, you got Brees and Garrett Wilson, and Brees had an awesome night. It just doesn't come to fruition. It doesn't matter whenever you have an offensive line that's just making your quarterback run around to death, and he's just waiting every moment. Like, I have a shorter clock than I'm used to. Like for this play to develop, I have 0.4 seconds less than I should. And that just causes all sorts of confusion. And last night, Rodgers didn't have it, but also it's just a disaster, especially for a front like Pittsburgh, man. You're getting the rain poured down on you really quick with Pittsburgh every single down. And if you're not ready to play as an offensive line, good luck, boys. Good luck.
They're gonna eat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
always do.
Yeah, they certainly are.
How about
go ahead, Joseph.
Okay. Oh, as long as we're doing, I guess like Sunday takeaways, the Lions-Vikings game lived up to all the hype. That incredible, absolutely incredible game. I was kind of under the impression that, and I know we kind of did a little, was it a 5-pack or a 6-pack Thursday night or something like that?
It was
we
5,
give some quick thoughts on the game. And I thought to myself, when we predicted this game, I picked the Lions, and I thought, Sam Darnold going to turn back into a pumpkin. The clock's going to strike midnight. He did not. One interception, and he was sacked 4 times, but 22 of 27, 259 yards, 9.6 an average. Like the Vikings are legit, and Sam Darnold is more than serviceable. So the Lions and Vikings game was all it was hyped up to be, and that division is incredible. So it's gonna be a fun time to be gonna be a good season if you're just a fan of any of the NFC North teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, now Minnesota's in a good spot here because they kind of have a good problem. If Sam Darnold is actually legit, then you can let JJ McCarthy heal properly. Don't rush him back. Let Sam continue to play and just let JJ sit and marinate.
Yep.
If he turns out to be legit, if he's good, just let Sam continue to roll.
Yeah, and especially if you keep your weapons, if you keep Addison and Jefferson, dude, that is going to be a great situation up there. I'm sure they're going to have to pay some of their defensive guys, and their fronts played really well as also for the last 2-3 weeks. You're like, man, I thought these guys would get kind of crushed eventually too. I thought talent level going in, you're like, well, they got JJ, Aaron Jones coming in. We'll see. Dude, it's just all worked out for them. And Kevin O'Connell was a favorite in our household after watching the quarterbacks documentary. Han's a big fan of that. So, we slightly root for Kevin O'Connell, and then now she knows Kirk Cousins is on the Falcons. 5 weeks in, we found that out. So we're learning little things, but Kevin O'Connell's big. He's top tier 1 guy in our household after quarterbacks. So Kevin O'Connell, also great coach, good dude, and as all the aunts and people that were over at the house yesterday have come through, he's a good looking man. We'll just say that.
So where does he rank in terms of like Kevin O'Connell or Tony V? Who's higher?
There is a different stratosphere for Tony V around the Mountain Folk family up here. Tony V is in its whole different stratosphere, boys. Kevin's pretty far up there, especially for the pro level. We're a college town up here on Signal Mountain, so we lean heavy college, but for the most part on the pro side, them finding out Kevin O'Connell has made a difference in the viewership for the Red Zone.
Absolutely. Hey, makes sense. Whatever it takes to get viewers. I know the NFL's not hurting for viewership, but they certainly do appreciate the Signal Mountain crew tuning in for Kevin O'Connell. Speaking of quarterbacks, and I know it was just against the Panthers, but how about the former Titan, the former Falcon, Marcus Mariota, looking competent under center once again for the Washington Commanders?
It hurts, boys.
Anybody?
Like, we had one game like that, and that was his very first game.
Yep.
And then we never saw that piece again. Dadgummit, those guys can coach in Washington, man. They can freaking coach. I just, yeah, he looked good. He looked good because you're like, I wasn't a bunch of dinking and dunking either. It was just, Mariota played really well. He played really well, and I just was like, dadgummit. Of course, I sat Zach Ertz this week in favor of Evan Ingram. So that was tough to see at 9:30 and switch over to that. But yeah, man, like Marcus looked really good. And again, the Titans are in a bad spot. Don't get me wrong. But the Panthers, that is just heartbreaking. Heartbreaking, boys. I don't even know what you would do as a fan. You're so far away that you're so far away. It's just the saddest thing possible in sports right now. I don't know what you do. I don't know where you go. But yeah, Marcus, good job. But Jaden Daniels has been an absolute phenom too. This run of quarterbacks we got is incredible.
Yeah,
the league's in a good spot.
Yes,
the league's an incredible.
I still believe that Joe Flacco should be the starting quarterback in Indianapolis over Anthony Richardson. I don't see anything out of Anthony Richardson right now that makes me
never will.
I am so glad you said that, because literally watching that game, watching the parts of it that Red Zone showed me, I was like, the Colts are better with Joe Flacco.
Yes.
Like right now, I'm not saying Anthony's ceiling. I don't know, man. I was not an Anthony Richardson believer. I was not. He is a incredible athlete. But I just don't know. Like, I don't know if quarterback is a position that you want to take a guy on pure measurables. Maybe that's just me, but
no, there's so much more that goes into that position.
Yeah, it's the most important position on the field for a reason, and it can't be boiled down to measurables. And Anthony's great, man. Like, he's a fantastic athlete. He makes some absolutely wow throws, but he reminds me of Joe Milton. Like,
yeah,
he's a better athlete than Joe, and I think Joe's probably got more of a cannon, but
it's not far off. It's
it's not
6'5", incredibly jacked monster of a man that can run around, but like, it's just the overthrows. It's the miscommunication stuff. He's had terrible timing even back at Florida. Like, that's one thing I was like, I just don't get it. I see the athleticism, but it's the same thing. Like, it's the exact same thing as Joe Milton. It's the exact same thing. Like, you just fall in love with the rushing touchdowns. And dude, from that little hot start that he had in fantasy football from the casual, it looks like he's a lot better than he is. You're like, dude, he's getting rushing touchdowns, but it's like, yeah, the dude was 9 for 27 or whatever,
Yeah.
or 9 for 21 at best. And it's like, man, I looked over and we're taking a little stroll around here, and it was like, I think he was 3 for 14 to start. And I was like, I texted the group and I was like, why? What am I missing? Is what I was like. I think, what am I missing about Anthony Richardson that gets people so hyped up? Like, I mean, just I haven't seen it literally since the days he started at Florida.
He is, and I need you to stick with me on this, okay? He is the closest thing to Cam Newton since Cam Newton. He's not even close. But in terms of measurables and ability and body type and how he looks, he is the closest thing to Cam Newton since Cam. And that's one of those things where somebody gets in a coach's ear, somebody gets in a GM's ear, and they're like, oh, we've seen this kid, man. Cam Newton-esque.
You fall in love with those things.
You do, man.
Yeah.
And it's just poison in the ear. And I wish the best for Anthony Richardson. I got nothing against him other than he went to Florida. Ugh, sorry. I wish him success, man. I do. But it just seems like watching that team, Joe Flacco is better for them than Anthony Richardson is. I mean, he's been around the league. He's better with protections. He can read defenses better. I mean, yeah, you're losing. Like, you could definitely have Anthony be serviceable in some packages for sure. But if you're serious about winning in Indianapolis, I don't know how you can't take a good hard look at what that team was the few weeks that Joe was starting and what they were Sunday with Anthony.
Yeah. Yeah. Shane Steichen's really got to take a hard look at that and make probably the difficult call to start Joe Flacco, because obviously that's a guy you drafted, high in Anthony Richardson, and you want to play him, and you see all the measurables and the potential, but it's better for your football team right now to have Joe Flacco under center for sure.
Yeah. And he could be getting GM pressure. He could be getting front office pressure. Like, hey, we drafted this kid. Like, why aren't you playing him?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know
Could
how
be.
that, I don't know. So
where are y'all on the cheering and the happiness of Cleveland fans with Deshaun Watson popping his Achilles and being down on the ground? I've heard both sides of the story of. I've heard some people be like, yeah, like it wasn't right for Cleveland fans. They shouldn't be booing anybody to get hurt. And then I've heard some other people be like, no, this dude's kind of a scumbag. I'm okay with you cheering.
I'm out on that.
yeah, dude.
The Achilles tear. I don't agree with things he did, and I think he's probably a scumbag. But I can't cheer for an Achilles tear.
Yeah, I mean, you could really see that thing pop when you slowed it down and looked at his calf.
Oh yeah, dude. It looked the same as Kirk and Aaron last year. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, man. Ultimately, you want me to give you my take on this? Ultimately,
yes.
The Browns are stupid. That was the worst deal in the history of the NFL, and that's where I'm going to sit. This was a bad deal, and Cleveland's paying for it. So,
yeah,
I'm not down for anybody, regardless of what they've done, cheering for them when they get hurt. Yeah, and I think we're all on the same page with that. Like, dude may have done whatever he did off the field. It's despicable. It's terrible. You can think whatever you want about him as a person, but you never root for somebody when they go down like that. And this is somebody who's, he's an athlete. He's trying his best out there, and it has not worked out in Cleveland. And as you said, Joseph, you put it well. One of the worst deals in NFL, maybe even sports history, to bring that guy in, give him all of that guaranteed money coming off the things that he did. Just terrible. Just bad. I mean, It's classic Cleveland Brown organization.
Yep.
Business decisions. It fits right into the genre.
Yep. It was the most Cleveland Browns-esque move. Like, and to pile on that, Baker and the Bucks are 4-2. Like, Sam Darnold and the Vikings are 5-1.
Yep.
Like it's I don't know who cursed the Browns, but I hope we're cool. So whoever put that curse on Cleveland, I hope you ain't got nothing against me. Like, I'm just the guy on the internet. So
Anything else stand out to you guys about the NFL from this past week? Saquon destroyed Saquon destroyed his former team. The Eagles defense showed up. The Packers lost the turnover margin by 3, and they still were able to find a way to win. You don't see that happen very often. And if they don't turn the ball over that much, they win this game going away because CJ Stroud was 10 for 21, 86 yards. They did that to CJ Stroud and the Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell. I mean, Joe Mixon was really good in this game, but holding CJ Stroud down like that, I mean, look, I know I'm a Packers guy, but you got to give a little round of applause to Jeff Hafley for being able to disrupt him and those receiving weapons that he has there in Houston. That was a great job.
Down.
Big time. I love a motivated Jair Alexander. He's just like on a different level when he's like truly motivated. He's a good quarterback when he's not, when he's just playing. But when he gets into it with like Justin Jefferson or Stephon Diggs, like he truly locks up.
Oh yeah. I guess last thing I wanted to hit with the NFL.
Can I say one more thing about that Packer game before you do that?
Go for it. Yeah.
Just real quick. Just want to say I don't know how this is even possible. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Josh Jacobs got his first receiving touchdown in the NFL on Sunday, which is wild. I think he had the most, games played in the NFL without a receiving touchdown.
221 receptions without a receiving touchdown, something like that.
Like that's like Jacoby Myers
approximately
territory.
220. Yeah, that's rough. And for someone who's regarded as probably like a better running back in the league, he's not like a top tier running back, I don't think, but he's a better running back in the league. You wouldn't think. Would you put him top tier?
I'd put him like he's top.
I'd say he's like.
League. He's not he's like top
B-tier.
5, but he's like top
B tier.
12.
Yeah, he's. I'd say he's B tier, B plus. He's not A.
Yeah.
That's someone you would expect to have at least a receiving touchdown at some point.
Yeah.
Yes.
But good for Josh Jacobs, man. Glad that he broke the record for or he broke his record for receptions without a receiving touchdown. The last thing I had on the NFL, man, is when do you think the Chiefs are gonna take their first loss? So I got the schedule in front of me. I can read it off to you guys.
Pull it.
They're at the Raiders. They play the Bucs at home. They play the Broncos at home. They're at the Bills. Then they're at the Panthers. Then they play the Raiders again. Then they play the Chargers, at the Browns, the Texans, the Steelers, and the Broncos.
I mean, it would probably have to be at the Bills. That would be their best opportunity for a loss.
Yeah.
If the Bills are humming the way that they're going with Amari Cooper now in the mix and James Cook being healthy, to me, that would be the obvious spot. But I really would love to see, maybe they could take a weird loss against the Broncos if their defense showed up, or the Bucs. But I don't see that happening. Like the Chiefs they continually find a way to win ball games, regardless of whatever circumstance they're in. They'll pull Kareem Hunt off the street. He'll have 2 touchdowns. Like, it's what?
I mean, dude, it's Andy Reid, and as long as you got 15, you're in.
Yeah.
Like, as long as you got 15.
He's playing terrible, too.
Yeah, and you got 95 on the other side. Like,
yeah. They're good all around, and they're going to continue to be good, but they can drop one of the ugly ones. Like, there's that potential, especially like division opponents, but it's the Bucs, the Bills. That's it, man.
And maybe the Texans in December.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're going to Texans, but then, I was saying
the Chargers usually play them tough.
Yeah. It's that Chargers team. I don't know. That's
There's
another
nothing
one.
to write
Chargers
home
feel like-
offensively. Like
They feel like they're missing some pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe at the Steelers too. That might be a spot where they maybe get some pressure
Especially
on
right
Patrick
now, man,
Mahomes.
the way they're playing.
Yeah.
That's one thing I'm kind of surprised nobody brought up was that Russ looked. Did Russ cook? Russ cooked
Yeah.
last night.
He's slightly cooked.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little
He
bit.
didn't look terrible.
No, he
Still got that deep ball every once in a while. The George Pickens just throw it up and make something happen.
I mean, GP. I'm so happy for my boy.
Same. I love
Good
George
for him.
Pickens, and now I'm going to have to rely on him in fantasy a little bit more because Ayuk is down, and you've got DK Metcalf, who I invested heavily in, who's going to be out at least a week or so. So
Yeah.
I'm going to need George Pickens to stay on that same energy with Russ.
Yeah. Well, boys, we good here?
It's
That's
just
it,
a
that's all.
2-hour and 10-minute juicer, baby.
Yeah,
Dang,
just
boys.
letting it fly.
that's a
Thank you.
beefy. Yeah, I got to get in the bed.
Hey, it's been a fun
Yeah.
show, man. I've loved getting a chance to see you again. It's love having you on the show. Can't wait to meet little Gracie Lee. And hey, follow us over social media. Didn't get a chance to say that off the top, but you can see it on the screen here at Chatted Up Sports. Find us all over wherever you get your podcast as well. 5 stars, nothing less. Make sure you tell a friend as well. Chase, great to see your face. Glad you got a chance to hop in here.
Heck yeah, boys. Got to stop in for a few minutes. So little kiddo's down. So
Good deal.
Hell yeah.
Well, hopefully she sleeps through the night. Hopefully we get a little rest here. I know you said you got a nice little routine going on.
we'll see. We'll see how this goes. She's doing a little tough. There's a reason I wasn't on the first hour and a half. So
Yeah,
We'll
we're
see.
crossing your fingers for you. We're praying for you.
all right. Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
Joseph, great shit tonight. Always good to be on with you, rocking and rolling. Great weekend this past weekend as well. We'll have to do it again. We'll be back with you somewhere, horns down, as always, somewhere on Thursday. Don't know exactly where we're going to be yet, but we will let you know via social media. That's why you got to follow us all over social media, by the way. For Chase Green, Joseph Guthrie, the aforementioned Garrett Tolley, who had to run because of his little Philomena. I am Greg Larnard. We'll catch you on Thursday. This has been Chatted Up Sports. Peace and love. We out.